Hey everybody, it's Reckoning Bros. I'm Mark.
I'm Scott. What's up, Mark? Happy
Saturday
evening.
night, what's going on, man?
Man, I'm just sitting here having a few drinks, thinking about the world and how effed it is. Before the podcast, you guys convinced me to join Twitter, which I've never done before, and I have to emotionally cope with that. You made, to both your and Josh's credit, made convincing points. Now I have to emotionally cope with ruining my life by being on Twitter.
Well,
So
you
that's
made it.
going to
You
be fun.
managed it well because you have self discipline. I mean, there's
I'd
people
like to
on
think I
there
do.
like my favorite example is Rob Reiner, who was on Twitter every day, day after day. I'm not joking. I'm not exaggerating. 24/7, 365 about Donald Trump for like
Hmm.
4,000 days in a row.
Yeah,
And
man.
I didn't
Those
respond.
stories scare me,
I mean,
man.
how do you respond? Like, that's okay. Leave politics aside. It could be Jack
Yeah.
Kennedy, Harry Truman. He could be talking about Sebastian fucking Cabot. He could be talking about somebody I like every day. You're tweeting about
Yeah.
somebody every day, every single day. That's sociopathic. Correct me if I'm
I
wrong.
first, for you are absolutely right.
Like,
I was a little.
put up a
I,
puppy video. Put up an otter video. Show somebody a picture of your kid. Say, look, here's a picture, do something even more annoying. Like, here's a picture of the lunch I had. No, everything was Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump's a fascist, Donald Trump's a Nazi. We're going to lose our save our democracy. Over and over and over. And, it was black women are going to save the world. All this virtue signaling horse shit every fucking day, day after day. I got, it
are
was,
you okay? I was really afraid there that I was going to witness you just have an aneurysm and
a,
just collapse. So to
probably
make
a
sure you're
stroke.
good,
You'll know when my eyeball starts to bleed
it's going to
right
be a
now.
stroke or a heart attack that takes you out in the end. It's going to be one of those two.
So we were going to talk about what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about somebody leaked it. I don't know who. So apparently, Department of Government Efficiency, Musk, etc., the team that wants to gut the federal bureaucracy, and I don't know who could be against that. And I'll tell you why you shouldn't be against it. People are like, you can't just get rid of all these government workers. Well, that's good. The government's going to collapse. Unemployment rate's going to skyrocket. The government runs every weekend. It runs perfectly fine. They leave the office. Only 7% of them go to the office anyway. They leave work at 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and the government runs fine on Friday afternoon, Saturday, on Sunday. Every time Congress has a budget dispute and they shut the federal government down, and then they order essential workers only, which is what? Air traffic controllers, the military, the people that send out the Social Security checks, the people that hand out the the food stamp cards, the people that run Medicare, the people that run Social Security and Medicaid and Medicare. All that stuff gets done.
Hmm.
The essential workers come to work. People at Department of Homeland Security, the FBI, they come to work, right? They shut down the government, and the government runs fine. And it runs on like 1/20th of the fucking workforce. So they're talking about, anyway, it got leaked out that Team Doge is thinking about um, eliminating 7,000 pages of tax code regulations that go into a flat tax.
Well, that's an
And
interesting concept. Certainly not a new one.
no, it's not a new one. I guess
I
everybody.
wait. Let me back up just a little bit,
Yeah,
Mark. You can tell me if I'm right or wrong. Aren't a lot of these government agencies surprisingly new? Like a lot of them are starting in the 1970s, 1980s, 1990s. You got the Department
yeah,
of
they
Homeland
are.
Security, which is huge, which is only 20 years old or so.
Yeah, they are. They are. And the original government departments. Somebody put up a video of Milton Friedman the other day, and they're asking the interviewers asking him like, "So I'm going to read off government departments. You tell me whether they stay or go." The Department of
All right.
Transportation, go. Department of Energy, go. Department of Education, go. Department of Justice, stay. Department of Defense, stay. Department of State, stay. Right? So the actual functions, like if you read Article 10 of the Constitution, where it says the federal government will do these functions, and all of their powers are delegated to the states, right? Um, and yeah, and it's not it's not that education is bad or transportation is bad. Is that these government departments really all they are is employment centers for a lot of bureaucrats. They push paper
Yeah.
around. We've talked about it before. They push paper
I've
around.
done
On
it
this
many
stuff.
times.
Yeah.
Many times.
So Ronald Reagan told me one time. He said, "Well, they tell me. He told the room. And we were talking about the bureau. We were talking about closing down the Department of Education because we wanted to do it." And he goes, he goes, you know, he goes, he goes, well, you know what these government departments are and what most of Washington is. He said, people send their money, people get their money taken from their paycheck on Friday afternoon, and it goes to Washington. And it goes to Washington, and once all the bureaucrats get paid, and then that money, the money that's left over, goes back to wherever it was the bureaucrats say it goes back to. It's like getting a blood transfusion and losing a quart on the way, which is exactly what it is. We take money from your paycheck, Scott, your paycheck, and my paycheck, and it goes to Washington. But you got to pay everybody there to figure out what the fuck they're going to do with that money, right? And the essential functions of government, like the Department of Defense, the Department of State, the Department of the Interior to take care of the public lands, etc., Department of Justice, those departments are, the essential functions of the federal government. Yes, you need a Department of Health and Human Services, because we have such a huge Medicare and Medicaid system, etc. But so yeah, getting back to the tax thing, and so people lost their fucking minds when they heard about the flat tax. That's going to help the rich. It's going to hurt the poor. And what people don't understand about, and I'm more really for a modified flat tax, which is a zero tax rate within 180 to 200% of the whatever the poverty line is, right? Which is what Reagan did in the '86 tax reform bill. It was four rates: 0, 10, 15, and 23 or something like that, right? So it cut taxes across the board. It was basically a modified flat tax. So the rich paid about 25%. The upper middle class paid 15%. The middle class paid 10%. And the poor paid none because they shouldn't have to pay tax. The working poor and the poor paid none, right? But a lot of people, a lot of leftists just keep pushing this notion that we need to go back to the 90% tax rate that Eisenhower had. We need to go back to, that's when the rich pay their fair share. Not only does the top 1% already pay half of all federal taxes, but people that don't understand economics that talk like that say, we're going to go back to a 90%, like everything, like Elon Musk doesn't need all this money, right? And for every $1 billion he makes, he should be taxed. Like after $100 million, every dollar should be taxed at 90%, like we did back in the day. Nobody paid. The rich didn't pay taxes back in the day when the tax rate was 90%. They sheltered their income, and they shut down production. And to give you a good example, I'll tell another Reagan story. So Reagan was in the top tax rate when he was an actor. He was a decently well-paid movie actor, and he'd made 2 movies or 3 movies, I forget. Made 2 movies or 3 movies, and it would put him at, I think it was $500,000. Anything over $500,000, it could have been $1 million. But any money you made over, let's just say for sake of argument, $1 million. Anything over $1 million you made, you had to pay. You had to pay the 90% tax rate. And he told the story many times where he's like, so yeah, I'd get a movie offer in September to do another movie, to do a third movie, and I'd turn it down. And I turned it down because it didn't pay me anything to make it. I'm going to make 10 cents on the dollar. Why should I make this movie? And then he stopped and thought about it for a minute. He's like, wait a minute. I'm kind of being a little bit selfish here because if that movie isn't made, the key grip guys aren't going to have a job. The producers aren't going to have a job. The directors, the assistant directors, the makeup people, the artists, the prop people, the key grip, the whole gamut, the whole studio production facility runs on other people working making movies. And it's the same thing in business. It's like the guy that owns a small business, he owns a small construction company. You're going to tax him at 90% for every dollar. You're going to tax him at 90 cents on the dollar, every time, at the point at which he makes, let's say, $1 million a year or 10 million, right? What happens then? In October, when he's building his fourth house and he gets an offer to build a fifth one, he's not going to build it. Who's that going to hurt? It's not going to hurt him. He's already doing well. He's already making fucking money. It's going to hurt the guy that hammers the nails. It's going to hurt the people in the factories that make all the stuff that goes on. The people that make appliances. The people that lay sod down. Every guy. It's like the Friedman's video with the pencil. Here's how a pencil's made. Right? There's so much shit that goes into it. Right? And it all sort of, I haven't let you talk very much, have I, Scott? Just keep your fucking mouth shut. Stay quiet until I'm finished.
I'm loving this. I'm not saying shit until you're finished. Keep going.
I forget where I was. Oh, yeah, like these same people, we're going to, tax the rich. We've got a 90% tax rate. We've got to pay their fair share. All it is, it's all taglines. There's no economics involved whatsoever. It's taglines. Tax the rich. Billionaires shouldn't exist. The whole thing. None of it is based in objective reality, basic economics. None of it. It's all taglines. It's all bullshit. They think they literally, the rich hoard their money. Elon Musk is worth $248 billion. And they think he keeps it under a mattress or in a vault. Right? They're too fucking stupid to know that Elon Musk's money, rich people's money, is in banks, which loan it out to little guys to buy a car and to buy a house and an appliance. It's in investment funds, which provide working capital for small businesses. It's in retirement funds, pension funds. It's in teachers unions pension funds. It's in public service workers union pension funds, you stupid fucks. You like the public service workers pensions for the people that are retired? You think Elon Musk keeps all of his money under a mattress? No, it's all part of the economy. I'm done for a moment.
I like how you ended that with "for a moment." I know you just need to sit. The boxer needs to go back to his corner and have his trainer massage his muscles before he gets back out there again.
Just please read a book. Please, I'm begging people to read a book on basic economics, how commerce works, how industry works, how taxes work. Right? You don't have to like Donald Trump or like Elon Musk. You don't have to be a liberal or a conservative. You don't have to be a Marx. You don't have to have any ideology at all. You can just be a football fan that has no political ideology whatsoever, right? But if you're engaging in it, but if you're doing this thing like, rich people, the rich got to pay their fair share, that's all class warfare. It's all nonsense. Should rich people pay taxes? Of course they should. Do rich people have loopholes where they get out of paying taxes? Yes, they do. Guess how that's done? The tax laws are written in Washington. The people that you love Washington, you love government. All of it is so contradictory. I love government, blah, blah. Government wrote the laws that you don't like. I love government until it's, and I'll segue into this one, I love government. I love the federal government. I don't want to fire any federal workers. That's going to put people out of work. It's going to, government, the civil service, they're public servants. Until, guess what? There's an illegal alien gang member who's been arrested 3 times in your city, and they won't hold him on an ICE detainer. Then you don't like the federal government. all of a sudden you don't like the federal government then? I stand in solidarity with my mayor who's going to stand up for our kids. This week I heard, I don't know how many mayors and governors talk about how they weren't going to cooperate with the federal government, with the incoming administration, on anything having to do with deportations or ICE detention orders, even for criminal illegal aliens. Now, if you can't get, you wonder why you lost an election. You want, for every action there's a reaction. You wonder why why Orange Cheeto gets elected, even though he's been impeached twice, arrested, mugshotted, convicted. January 6th. You want to know why he got elected? Partially, why? Because because he's the reaction. He's the reaction to the action. People saw illegal aliens raping and killing 12-year-old girls, and Democratic politicians saying, well, we can't be having any deportations. So no wonder you got a guy like, no wonder. What do you think that would give rise to? Probably a guy from New York going, or I'm going to do mass deportations.
I was just going to say, don't forget the burning cities and the riots. Those happened too.
Good time.
I saw a clip with Jon Stewart. Jon Stewart said something to the effect of, Kamala Harris wasn't campaigning on woke things. What are you talking about? She didn't campaign on any of these things. Somewhere in his head, he thought that the campaign mattered. What you're saying is true. What he's saying is bullshit. It's a referendum on everything that's been happening. We don't separate. A voter doesn't separate Hollywood bullshit being talked down to by them and who the Democratic presidential candidate is. It's all the same soup of shit they hate. They voted against it.
The most effective commercial in the campaign was Charlemagne the God and a couple of other people talking about, it showed the clip of her on a stage at a forum saying, yes, she supported transgender surgeries for people in prison.
She did say that shit.
Right?
Yeah.
And they showed that commercial, or they showed that clip, and then they showed Charlemagne the God and a couple of other guys going, nah, man, we didn't sign up for that shit. And they replayed that clip. And at the end of the clip, the voiceover was Donald Trump, he's for you. Kamala Harris, she's for they, them.
Yeah, brilliant. I remember that one. Brilliant.
Remember that?
Yeah.
So it wasn't. Yeah, no, she didn't run on woke, or free housing for everybody, or gun control, gun confiscation. But all that shit was on tape. All of it was on video for her during her tenure in California as a prosecutor, and when she was a senator. And people saw those clips and went. So when and then the few decent interviews that were done with her that weren't that weren't softball interviews, where a reporter said, "So do you still believe that the federal government should pay for transgender surgeries for people in prison?" And her answer to that was, "I'm going to follow the law." Well, nobody believed it because they already heard her say on tape that she was for it. So nobody believed it.
Mark, would you agree that you can't get away with with campaigning like it's 5 years ago? You can never get away with that again. The internet doesn't care when you said something. They can post a clip as if it was just said.
The way that machine
everything that's ever happened that's recorded is what is out there. You need to campaign towards that. You need to understand what people are actually thinking. The ball dropping that went on is just, I've never seen anything like it in my entire life.
The way that machine works really well. And yeah, which is the most mockable people out there are the ones that, like on the conservative side, Jennifer Rubin, who was a conservative and now sounds somewhere to the left of AOC, Bill Kristol, etc. I mean, today Bill Kristol said something about maybe we should tax the ultra rich, and somebody, I forget who it was, said you've become indistinguishable from the people whose positions you ridiculed 20 minutes ago.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
It's probably been since 1950s since your mindset of kind of libertarian yet very socially understanding, kind of conservative, but not really, only the conservative that you have to be. Mostly just a libertarian, fun-loving guy.
Yeah.
That hasn't been cool since like the 50s, right? Because no conservatism's been cool. Like none of this. Not paying attention to
I
economics has
like to
never
think
been
of
cool.
myself as like no different than the guys who were playing bebop jazz in the 50s and the 60s. Like, I'm not hurting anybody. I like to be nice to everybody. Go live your life, do what you want. If you're 18 years old, party the fuck on.
It's a way
Um,
to be.
no, I don't believe everything the government says. No, I don't believe big government. So, and we talked about Friedman earlier, and um, he posed the question is like, if you go to most people and say, do you think you get your money's worth for what you pay in taxes? The vast majority of people say no, they don't.
It's
They don't,
obvious that,
right? What's
I
it like in
guess
What's it like in California today?
California is a beautiful place with a lot of problems. But I think the point that I was trying to make is it seems like the cool kids now
Yeah,
are in your camp. They believe the things that you just spent 15 minutes riling about. Even in my beautiful state of California, it's if you're
in
too far in
California
that camp,
20 years
it ain't
ago, in
cool.
California 20 years ago, everybody in Hollywood and everybody in Marin County and all the hippies and all the leftists were like, I like drinking raw milk. I'm not, like these people never would have put a mask on outside. They never would have said would have said okay to an outdoor mask mandate.
Yeah.
And now when rural people or conservative people, libertarian people talk about drinking raw milk, guess who the first ones to jump on them? Like, you're going to get E. coli, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, dude, motherfucker, 20 minutes ago, you were all on board with the government telling people to wear masks outdoors. You do not, you shut the fuck up about doing risk assessments for somebody else.
Well, you know
Right.
what
So
happened,
you were
right?
in your car. You were in your car alone. You were in your car alone with a mask on in 2022, and
So, Mark,
you want to jump on some lady in Wisconsin for drinking raw milk. Get the fuck out of here.
I saw somebody doing that
agreed.
yesterday.
Go fuck
Wait,
yourself.
agreed.
Wrap.
What I'm trying to say is I think the authoritarians, they just have their spaces on the left now. There's a big welcoming spot for them on the left. It used to be on the right, now it's on the left. So you can go
The
over there
impulse,
and you can be a Puritan and you can tell people how to live their lives. You're more welcome on that side of the fence now.
yeah, the
Then Stan
impulse,
must point you to that.
the
That's it.
impulse, the impulse of the left is totalitarian. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, if you consider the left just being like a communist or a socialist, but even what's the left and right, I have to also think about what historically is left and right. Are we talking about left and right in 2024? Are we talking about left and right in just the American concept in 2024? And there's so much switching back and forth. But if what you're talking about, yes,
Yeah, I mean, I'm using that in the context of like, sort of like in the last 15, 20, 30 years in the United States.
yeah,
It's time to wrap it up, Scott. I will see you in a day or two.
all
Um,
right,
don't forget, everybody, to like and subscribe. We're going to put this
like and
up.
subscribe.
And Scott from California. This is Scott from California. Say goodbye, Scott.
Goodbye, Mark. Goodbye, everybody. Like
Good
and
night.
subscribe.
Good night.
Thank you
Good
very
night.
much.
Good night.